Joining us now is the executive chairman of the Center for Security Policy and author of the new book, The Indictment, prosecuting the Chinese Communist Party and friends for crimes against America, China, and the world. Frank Gaffney, welcome to Victory News.
Thank you. It's terrific to be with you.
Frank, you've said what America faced at the very worst moments of the Cold War with Russia pales in comparison to what we are currently facing with communist China. Tell us why.
I say that based on my own personal experience with some of the darkest days of the Cold War, when Ronald Reagan, and I have his privilege to serve as an acting assistant secretary of defense, was trying to bring down the Soviet Union, a formidable adversary with immense numbers of nuclear weapons. And I will tell you, based on my own experience, that was nothing compared to the danger that we're facing today from a Chinese Communist Party that not only has amassed enormous economic power, again, as we talked about in the Western Conservative Summit, with our help, but also now the military means with which to wage war against us, I think that makes the Soviet threat pale by comparison.
You know, in your book, you present the Chinese Communist Party as a transnational criminal organization, or an illegitimate mafia, if you will. What brought you to that conclusion?
Well, it's fairly straightforward if you simply look at the various crimes that it is engaged in. And our book, The Indictment, talks about 9 of them, starting with crimes against humanity, the murder of 100 million of their own people. And that does not count the 4, maybe 500 million they've murdered in the womb. But then there's about, we call them 8 different war crimes they've engaged in against the United States that have done incalculable harm to our people. Over 1 million of us they've murdered with a biological warfare attack, for example. There's the 100,000 or so that they're killing every year with fentanyl, and on and on.
And tell us how you believe China even meddled in the 2020 national elections here.
Well, they had motive, for sure. They wanted Donald Trump gone. They had, I believe, intent in that they had announced in May of 2019 they were going to engage in a people's war, and not, by the way, in some secret document, but on the pages of the People's Daily, their principal propaganda arm. And they had the capability. It appears as though through cyber warfare means, and perhaps more direct involvement with some of the election machines, as well as through efforts that they made possible in all of the swing states to recruit and register individuals who would be sympathetic to the removal of Donald Trump, their strategic goal, to get them to vote and facilitate their voting. So I think through all those means, illegal in some cases and certainly covert in others, they were very actively involved in our election for the purpose of bringing us down. And then there's the biological attack, too, which also had that effect.
Good point. A Wall Street Journal op-ed Wednesday says the Biden administration is determined to revive an approach to China that has failed for 30 years. Does the president believe he can actually make it work?
It's hard to say what the president believes, or even who the president is, for that matter. The people doing business as Joe Biden clearly think that if they continue to do what has been done in the past, which is, well, at best appease, and at worst enable the Chinese communist threat to become more formidable, they can achieve what I think is their shared agenda, which is taking down our country. This is a Marxist administration, I believe. But more to the point, what they're doing is emboldening the Chinese Communist Party, and thereby greatly exacerbating the danger. This is why I talk about in that brief, among other places, including in our book, The Indictment, we need to remove from high office and in other political and non-political leadership positions those who are elite captured by our immortal enemy, the Chinese Communist Party.
You know, we've seen a rapidly growing stream of Chinese illegal immigrants coming across our southern border, many of them military age. Should the DHS and those who man our border be more suspicious of this and why they're coming?
Well, they shouldn't be suspicious. They should be shutting it down. But as Congressman Mark Green described in that previous clip, they're allowing them in. Worse, they're moving them all over the country. If you wanted to facilitate enemy operatives, possibly special forces of the People's Liberation Army, and mounting an insurgency against our country from inside our borders in the event of war, you couldn't come up with a better formula for doing it than what we're doing at the border today.
No doubt. Very disturbing. You're right. Now, where can we get a copy of your book, The Indictment, Prosecuting the Chinese Communist Party and Friends for Crimes Against America, China, and the World?
I'm happy to say I think everywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore. I hope you will check it out and give a copy to your elected representative as well.
Frank Gaffney, thank you for sharing your knowledge and insight with us today on Victory News.
Privilege. Thank you.